Hello, I'm Judith and this is my Artist for Artist presentation on Edward Burrough. Edward Burrough was born in 1905 and despite all emerging art movements throughout the 20th century, he took inspiration from the ones that appeared in the first few decades, such as Impressionism, Cubist and abstract art. He also stuck to less diverse sets of media, such as watercolor and gouache, due to his lifelong illness of chronic fatigue and arthritis. This forced him to stay seated, limiting the variety of ways he could work in and the materials he could use, such as oil paint. Most of the artists who inspired him were either friends from the Royal College of Arts, like the war artist Paul Nash, political surrealist painters like George Grosz, and Wyndham Lewis, an artist spanning the Cubism, Dada, or Vorticist movements. Burrough found it necessary to travel to different, more thrilling parts of the world, which I think was simply due to his childhood experience of living in the dull world of upper-class England. This crave for something interesting, and his love for Dickens's literature, could have been what drew him to the corrupt, mysterious, and less innocent parts of society. This can be seen in his earlier works when he visited Paris, where his attention was caught by theatre, burlesque dancing, and bar life. Minuet Mansion and the Dockside Cafe, based in Marseille, were reflections on his immersion into a society filled with so many interesting figures. He's included the times he visited Mexico, containing an abundance of places that represented the macabre, like his dancing skeletons. He also lived in the Harlem district of New York before continuing his travels, and found it flooding with emotion at places like ballrooms and street corners, despite the fact that this was during the Great Depression throughout the 1930s. He painted from memory and never on the scene due to his fatigue, which gave his work a very idiosyncratic look, as if his experiences would have been mixed with fragments of childish imagination. Burroughs' work at this point only contained observations and satires without deeper suggestive meaning. But this mocking innocent outlook changed completely when he traveled to Spain just before the start of the Spanish Civil War in 1936 and the arrival of World War II in 1939. These events made Burrough notice the cruelty, destruction, and death everywhere in society, and the overwhelming realization matured him and his whole artistic focus. He lost the ability to laugh at the world with his satires, like when he asked, "What can a satirist do with Auschwitz?" His skill for depicting metaphorical messages also peaked at this stage in his life, seen in paintings like It's All Boiling Up, a piece about social unrest where a pair of eyes peer out of a giant kettle in the middle of a poverty-stricken street, boiling on a fire that looks like melting human flesh. These paintings are more to do with surrealism, but it still reminded me of the art movement called social realism, which focuses on drawing attention to socio-political conditions of the working class. For example, how Dorothea Lange documented the American Great Depression, or Raphael Sawyer's City Park. At first, I dreaded the research on Edward Burrough, probably because of his style, but I showed interest in his context instead, especially the paintings of the broken world in the 30s and 40s. This is because I've noticed how things have not changed, and the element of dark corruption and ironic satire can still be seen today, where it exists in things like entertainment, the people, and the dependence on money, something that I tried showing in these sketches about my daily experiences. Another artist with a similar outlook on society is a satirist called Steve Cutts. I also wanted to attempt depicting an everyday setting that looks normal but is shameful deeper down. For example, showing a view of my workplace at a fast food restaurant where behind the scenes of serving fast food are dark truths about the nature of the company and the nutrition of the food, yet customers still queue to buy it for a ridiculous price. But after further planning, I found it a better idea to direct the attention towards the consumer, and the seating area setting sounded like the best iteration, and that collected more themes I wanted to address than previously. So the final scene would be from a personal experience that would reflect hidden corruption, with a chaotic table surrounded by children and piled with the remnants of Happy Meals. It would be titled Birthday Party, And I chose this because it is ridiculous how people can spend almost double the amount of money on fast food than it would cost to celebrate at home with the invited guests, which would be more memorable form of a party.